God, I knew this was my wife.
But we had this knowing, and for me, that really came from praying for you before I had even met you.
On our wedding day, she gave me this Bible. You have a date here that is far before we had ever even met. This woman has been praying for me. I think too many times we wait until the moment actually happens, and we don't do the preparation ahead of time. The goal through dating is really to make sure you're not creating an idol out of this, but that you're passionately pursuing God. I can ask you this question, Christian, do you pray for me right now?
Welcome to the Dear Future Husband podcast. I'm your host, Christian Bevere, and I am thrilled to be with you guys today. You have been waiting on a special announcement, and guys, I'm elated to finally bring this to you. This has been years in the making, months in the conversations with many of you asking, I need to know more about this certain topic, which we are going to dive completely into today. And I thought, what better guest to join me for the first guest episode of season 2 and to share this news than my husband, Arden Bevere.
Yeah.
Welcome to Dear Future Husband again.
Oh, it's always a pleasure, my love. I'm so glad that we get to have this conversation, and always love to just be able to talk about this because obviously it's our story and there's so much that God has done. And just even the further we go through life, the more I just look at, what God did in that season and just be so thankful for how God navigated it with us, walked us through it, and really just guided both of our steps individually so that we could come together in a way that was setting up, what our life is right now.
I love that you said that. I even did a podcast this morning and was talking about our love story and just thought, man, I hope that God gets the glory for, how we met, how we dated, all of it, because it really is just his instruction. It's for his glory. It's not that either one of us were perfect. You were more close to perfect than I was, but it's just been such a blessing to be your wife.
Yes.
I love you. And tomorrow, we're recording this. Tomorrow is our 7-year anniversary. So what sweet timing as well.
Which is funny because I remember going back, I think it was our either our second or our first anniversary or third, maybe third, second or third. It was one of those ones. I think it was second anniversaries. We had recorded an entire course together. Yeah. And then we went straight into our anniversary time and we stayed at the Broadmoor. I think it was our second anniversary. And so it's funny that just we're still kind of doing that same rhythm, 7 years later and seeing how God keeps working through us. And I can't wait for even more.
Oh, well, I love it. Well, I'm going to definitely keep bringing you on the podcast, so I'm glad that you're down for that. But we did things a little bit different than I typically see in couples today, inside or outside of the church. And we've talked about our story a little bit on past episodes, but we want to share some really exciting updates today that I think play beautifully into our story. And I'm excited to get your perspective, the male approach on this. But the big thing that we want to share is if you heard our first episode of How We Met, I shared a lot of what really marked how we met and being able to date well, having our, short engagement. We knew each other for 7 months before we said I do, which sounds so crazy still to me today, but we had this knowing. And for me, that really came from praying for you before I had even met you. When I still thought, does this guy exist out there somewhere? And a lot of people have said, okay, how did you do that? Like, what did you use? And honestly, I just got a little brown Bible off of Amazon. Yeah. You want to show it? Yes. I was like, a dude would like this someday. My husband would like it. Yeah. And I just started praying into that Bible. And it took me a few months to really find my cadence of, Lord, what do you want me to pray into? How do you want me to pray? What's the rhythm in this? And some of that is so very intentional. I'm thankful that God, shaped my faith. He pronged my faith. He really, I think for me and I like to be a high achiever. So it was fun to stretch. Okay, I'm going to have to learn this and I'm going to have to be awkward with it at first. And then he's going to really develop it in me. But my hope is to help women that are in that same camp of whether you're single, dating, even engage, and just like, I really want complete peace stepping into the next season. I want to give you almost like a guide map and prompts to be able to do that well and to get, to the heart of praying for your spouse and for your marriage. And so we created the Dear Future Husband prayer journal. It has prompts, it has places to take notes, it has stuff not just to pray for your future husband, but to pray for your marriage and to transform you. This is not a I wish I could guarantee you start praying and your husband comes to your door tomorrow. I can't do that, but I can promise you that this will really shape your why. Why do you want to get married? What are you looking for in a spouse? Who are you becoming? There's just so much that I feel like the Lord showed me in his kindness and developed in me, as a single woman. Doesn't mean it ends there. There's always the growth that comes in marriage of doing life closely with someone, but just giving you guys a little glimpse. There's topics. You can pray for his protection, his character. There are, little journal notes. And my favorite thing about this is on our wedding day, how did you first learn about your husband's Bible?
Yeah, I mean, I'm so excited. I just need to first say this. I'm so excited for you because this has been something you have talked about. I'm trying to remember when you first shared about the Bible that you gave me. I think it was within the first year of our marriage. And it's something that you just began to start putting on your heart of like, man, what if I could create a resource for women to be able to give to their husbands? And in the same way that I gave you this Bible, create a Bible that they can essentially have and have the prayers that they need to go through, places where they can journal and go through all those things. And so that was, 6 years ago. And looking at this resource now, I'm looking at it was just so proud because I know this has been one of your life's dreams of wanting to see a resource like this created for women to obviously be able to have something that they can tangibly start taking. I mean, It's one thing just to say, pick up a Bible and start praying for your future husband, but actually having a tangible resource that they know, what things should I be praying for? What things should I be believing for? What things should I start be doing right now? And what does that actually look like? When I look at my Bible that you gave me, it's funny. I don't even use this one as my primary Bible because I kind of have kept it as like a very special object for me. And like, not that I'm coveting over it, but I just want to keep it protected. And I want to know, like, when I come to it in the right timing, I know I'll always have it for the right timing. And I love it because I've gone through a lot of it, but there's still notes. Like, I was just flipping through it. There's still notes within here that, like, right here, I've not read this. Christian wrote this 8 years ago, and I have still yet to read it. And why? Because she put it right here in this Bible that's specifically for Romans 5. And I haven't read through Romans 5 in this Bible because I have another Bible that I've been going through. I had another Bible before. And it's just like, I want to keep it. Yes, I read my Bible every single day. But I have things within here that you put over 8 years ago. And I look at this as a resource as one. I love that it's beautiful in the making of it, but this idea that it's giving someone, something to be able to hand to their husband on that day. And Christian, what she had done for us is I had no idea about this. And we had written letters to each other pretty much all throughout our engagement and dating time period. And so writing letters was a very normal thing. And I remember on our wedding day, she gave me this Bible. And I was completely surprised by it. She gave me a watch as well. And I remember just sitting there, and she had given a note with it, and just looking through that book, on a day that was obviously filled with so many emotions and so many things that you're trying to navigate, where it just kind of feels like it goes by in a flash. I remember just sitting in that moment, and it was just a very still moment for me. And just looking at this book that you had, given to me, of not only just the word of God, but also the words of my spouse. And the one that I'm coming into a covenant relationship with, that is the beautiful depiction of what, Christ is to the church and what that meant to me. And I remember just looking at it and thinking so much of, God, I knew this was my wife. And I knew now, like, even more than, of course, I knew before, obviously, day of. So hopefully I knew that very solidly. But I knew even more that this woman has been praying for me. And I loved it because it wasn't like I opened it up and it was, hey, to Arden, like, bought this the day I started dating you. It was actually just, as you say in the beginning, to the one my soul loves, your loving wife, on our wedding day. And you have a date here that is far before we had ever even met. And I think it's beautiful that you had something tangible to be able just to start praying into and be able to give me on my wedding day. And it meant so much to me. And I love that now you've created a resource for all these ladies to be able to actually buy and be able to actually go through and give to their husbands someday on their wedding day.
Oh my gosh. I mean, did not expect to already start crying, but it means so much hearing that, because I'm sure like a lot of people that listening, the world of dating and relationships is so filled with just overabundance and a lot that truly shouldn't be there. It's just, it wreaks havoc on your relationships. It tells you, go test drive the car beforehand. It tells you to like give your heart out there, put yourself out there. And like so many people, I feel like a lot of my dating life, I was like, man, I wish I had a better presentation to give to my husband of, I've always been focused on you. I've never gotten discouraged. I've never compared my love life. I've never, gone off the track. But that's just not true. But what I look back on our time together, like this is the proudest thing I have of my singleness. One, when I was first asking the Lord to come into my love story. Two, being dedicated to being refined and shaped to how he wanted to make me as a woman and also a wife. And just to relive that moment of, wow, I got to pour my heart into something and just like create this joyful moment on our wedding day. And it brings such like happy and nostalgic tears to me, because I'm thinking in a world where there's so much of, how do I know if he's the one, or there are hardships in marriage, like this can just be a little something that can hopefully be, a blimp into the right direction.
Well, and it also was keeping you centered on the right thing.
Yeah.
Because I think this is where ultimately you came into this position where you said, God, I'm going to stop, trying to take on every single worry about my future spouse and live in this place where I'm questioning when is my spouse going to arrive. I mean, I was just talking to a guy, and he's asking all these same questions as well, of how do I know if it's my wife? When is she going to bring? And turns out he's 21, and I'm like, you're still relatively young, and I know people get married at 19, people get married later in life, whatever it is.
We were 23, so we're not.
But I looked at him, I said, this is something that doesn't need to be the end all be all of, this is the only thing I need to focus in, and it's worrying me, it's stressing me. I look at scripture, and I've written this down before. I'm like, here's what is a common theme within scripture is continuing to what? Cast your cares upon God. So you can look at Matthew 11, verse 23, 30, Psalms 34, 17 through 18, Philippians 4, chapter 4, verse 6, Psalms 37, verse 5, Isaiah 41, verse 10. All of those, and there's probably a lot more, like quickly just grabbing those, all of those is what? Casting your cares upon God.
Yeah.
And
because he cares for you.
Because he cares for you. And that's what I love about this, is this gave you something that as you went through it, it wasn't, I'm gonna grab this resource and I'm gonna be so almost making this resource my idol. And it's like, until God, you bring me this, then I'll kind of shift focus over here. It's, no, God, I'm gonna pursue you. You weren't just getting this Bible just to give it to your future husband. You actually got this Bible and you went through it. Like, I have your notes in here. I have places where you highlighted as you were reading things that you wrote into it, things that you said, hey, I want to put this down here is, man, God, you're speaking to me on this specifically. And it was you continuing to go deeper with God that ultimately was through that giving me a glimpse into your relationship with God that you gave me, that you gave me this resource on our wedding day. Yeah. And I think that's where this is such a beautiful resource that people and women can grab hold of, where the goal through dating and through this period where it feels like this is my only focus is really to make sure you're not creating an idol out of this, but that you're passionately pursuing God and that you're pursuing him to become the woman that God has created you to be, to have the understanding as a daughter of God that you need to walk in. And then through that relationship, there's a refining that God is taking place onto you. And you're not taking on the cares and the worries of the world around you, but you're continuing to cast it upon him and live with faith and expectation, knowing that he is a good God. And then you're seeking God. And then through that seeking, it will lead you into a place of what God is wanting you to be in. Right. And I think that's where we get so caught up in it. It's anxiety and stress. Like, we want to be masters of our own world, and we want to control it all. And God's simply just saying, no, like, seek me and find me. And through that, like, watch with your whole heart and watch what I'll do through it. Yeah. And I think that's what God did simply through you. Because I know the season you were in before that. I know you had kind of honestly given up on dating. And you just said, God, like in this time period, I'm going to pursue you. And until you bring my husband, this is going to be my sole focus. And I think that's where we have to continue to get back into, is seeking after God. And I loved it because even in that conversation with that young boy, wow, young boy, he's 21. Okay, I feel I'm not now. That old, but yes, that sounded like I was really, really old. But that conversation with that young man, he had such a heart for God. And that was what I just re-encouraged him with, was like, hey, continue to keep figuring this thing out. Go on dates, do the things you need to. Maybe don't overdo the date, but do it in a good way that you can understand and learn about the individual. But your main priority should be focusing out on God. Go deeper. I told him, read books, study, learn about what God has called you to do. And as you're continuing to run that race, you'll watch as God's going to bring the right person to you.
Yeah. You touched on some stuff where there is some really poignant alignment of what I was praying and things you were walking through. And I want to highlight that more, but I want to camp out on that tension you spoke to, because that is the real thing, is if this is a desire, but God hasn't illuminated it yet, what do I do? And I think the thought is either like I go all in, the idol approach, or I just cast it off of like, oh, I'm just so content, like Lord, whenever it happens, but I'm not going to touch it. And I really think there's a spot in between where we can have faith for something, we can pray into it. Yeah. It doesn't mean if it doesn't happen tomorrow that I'm going to give up and get frustrated, but it means I'm going to hold this loosely, pray into it, and then give it back to God. Like I look at Hannah's approach of prayer of, I think it was almost like 13 years of her praying for a son and continuing to put that before God. Yeah. But like you said, drawing near to him and releasing it back to him. So I think, especially for women, it's either, okay, I'm fine, or it's fine that my friends are getting engaged. It's fine that I'm not yet. And it's like a pseudo contentment. Yeah. Or I have to be completely content and almost not think about it. Yeah. And sometimes that's what we do when it's easier to not hope for something. I want you to still, if this is a desire of your heart, I want you to have hope, but peace. So peace isn't pretending I don't want it or controlling it. It's this tension of going in with faith. And I look at, the beautiful thing of this, I look at Jeremiah 33 and it says, call to me, I will answer you and will tell you great and hidden things that you have not known. And something for me in that time is I didn't know the parts of my heart I needed to heal, which was why I think a lot of those other relationships weren't working. Yeah. I didn't know, some of the mystery of what would enroll and unravel in our relationship. And God gave me dreams of what you looked like. He gave me direction. He gave me clarification. He gave me discipline. Like all of these things are great and hidden knowledge that if I would have pretended I didn't want it, I wouldn't have received. Yeah. But if I had tried to control it, I also wouldn't have received.
Yeah. Well, and so there's two things. I think these are actually two really big things that as I'm thinking about it, this produces so well. And I think kind of even going off of your point, I think you need to pray about it every single day. And what that could sound like is the opposite of what we're saying of don't make an idol. But what it is actually it's bringing it to God and just continuing to say, God, here's this thing. I know I've been contending for it, but here's this thing. It's probably going to be like, here's all these other things that I'm going to continue to keep praying and believing for. It shouldn't be just the only thing. But I loved, our pastor said this a while back, but he said, there is things that I've been believing and praying God for 30 years. And he said, and it hasn't happened. And he said, I'm still praying for them though. And my gauge on if God's faithful or not is not if God answers this or not. He said, it's just that who I know God is, who I've continued to get closer with and develop a greater relationship with God. He said, but I'm not going to believe that God just won't ever do those things. If he doesn't do those things, that's fine. It doesn't change how faithful God is. And that's where I think we have to come into this realization is no matter what, like God wants us just to continue to keep believing and trusting into him and casting these things upon him. Yeah. If we live in this place where it's like, that's the only thing I think about, and that becomes that idol, that essentially what we're talking about, where it's dictating every single day that I'm doing, then you're missing out on an opportunity. If I came to you every single day and there was only one thing I wanted every single day, it would limit me. You laugh because you think it's the other thing that people think. That's not what I was saying, but it limits the opportunity for greater connection that could happen. Whereas that can make you aware of like, hey, this is the desire I would want, but it's not going to not going to be the sole focus of everything. I'm
like
still going to come and connect with you on everything else. And it would be, if I look at that one thing, then my perception of you is, well, Christian is withholding. She's not actually a great spouse. She's not this. And it changes my perception of who it is. And that's what I loved about what our pastor said is it was just like, God's going to do something. He's going to be faithful. At the end of our lives, we're always going to look back and say, God, you were faithful. Yeah. Why? Because he is a good God. And that's just something to stand on.
Yeah, it highlights Hebrews 11:6 to me, and it says, and without faith, it is impossible to please God, because anyone who comes to him must believe that he exists and that he rewards those who earnestly seek him. And I think that highlights the position of faith in you and I, whatever the outcome is that we are praying for. It is not the actualization of the receiving. It is the faith aspect of, Lord, I am declaring that you are the God who moves. You are the God above all things. You hear my prayers. Yeah. You do come close when I draw to you. And so our response is not, well, I have faith that the answer will come. It's, I have faith that God is moving in this area.
Yeah.
However fast or slow that
might be. And I know, like, and I've always seen your heart, even with writing these books, is your heart has always just been to connect people closer with God and to see them in a deeper relationship with the Holy Spirit. And I think this is what leads into that. And I'm trying to remember, because there was two things that I wanted to say, and I'm trying to remember the second one, which I believe was on writing it out, which I think is
like Habakkuk.
Is a really great place, that giving you this resource where you can actually write out what it is that you're believing for. Because in writing out something, it's actually a really healthy way to be able to process something.
Yeah.
I think it's harder to process things just in your head, and you're like, I'm all up in my head.
It's a little crowd in there sometimes.
Yes, but when you actually write it out, you're able to kind of begin to start seeing it and begin to start giving it to God. And I love that this is a resource that people can write out those things as they're processing, as they're feeling these emotions, as feeling very real frustrations around like where they hope to be and what they hope to see. But I also look at our time period and how God just switched something so quick. And I even told that to the young man, I was like, God came out of nowhere with our chance. And I look at it and I was like, I'm so glad that leading up to it, that I was just continuing to be a good steward of what was in front of me. And even in the relationships or the dates that I had done before, is I navigated those. Yeah,
you went on a date?
Earlier, yeah. But navigated those in a way that was like good for me to move through and not come into this moment where I actually did connect with my wife and come in with all of this brokenness or hurt that I was continuing to hold on to, or frustrations or barriers, walls that I brought into. But actually, when the moment came, I was very aware of what I wanted to be looking for. And so when I saw it, I knew what I needed to share and the things that I needed to have those conversations with.
Which you did that so well. And any men watching this, I would really encourage that dynamic too, is it's not just a woman putting this longing of, I hope someone finds me. Like, men, you have to be knowing how you are going to pursue. And I think your prayers as a wife enables this too. Like, I was praying for character, and which I'll pause right here and say, there's a lot we're getting into where it's like, okay, well, hold on. Like, there's singleness dynamics, there's dating, there's spiritual, but there's actually the practical too. And not just one, but two books come out. And this one is called Future Husband Present Prayers, which very much like, I want that future husband, but right now I am praying. We go deeper into the what to pray, how to pray, and why you really should pray. Again, like, what is this forming in you? Why is this something that's on your heart? What can you be doing right now? And so this is a lot more of like the girl talk, the girl to girl. Let's confront some things in the healing journey. Let's talk about how to date well. Let's talk about red flags. Let's talk about the things you should be looking for when someone does pursue you. Is this someone God's leading you to be a blessed choice, or is this just a distraction? And so both of those are going to be available February 10th. That is the official launch, but you can pre-order now. We have bonuses. I have one of the fun bonuses, Love, I'm excited about. It's called BFF Bingo, where if your best friend meets someone, you have to go through this bingo like, does he serve well? Does he communicate well? Does he handle conflict? And so if you get all in a row, it could be a bingo. If you don't, he might be a no-go. So there's some fun evaluations in there, because this is a topic where it's like, it's so spiritual. But then it's also, okay, how do I practically walk that out? How do we make scripture alive and tangible? And, you talked about Habakkuk 2:2, where it says, write the vision, make it plain on tablets so he may run who reads it. And that is my hope, that you are able to take this and run with it. Like the Lord has already appointed so many beautiful things ahead of you, but we are so present focused, as humans in our nearsightedness, that I just want people, especially women, to be able to run on this journey, to just be ignited and energized and amped for this beautiful journey that they're headed on.
Yeah, that's great. And this is something that is just, it's so involved. And so that's why we are talking about all these things, because we want to see in all these areas, you just prepared and set up. And again, it was so funny because Christian, I mean, she of course shared about this, but she wrote this book right after you had Tatum, and it was navigating that whole season and just diving deep into what God was speaking through you through this.
For years leading up to it,
Yeah, with also probably, some delirious nights going through it.
Oh, the Holy Spirit wrote a lot of these books, I will tell you.
Yes, and that's the beauty of it. And I hope that as people go and pick that up, they can see it as a resource that's going to set them up for their future, and also just be something that they can give as a gift to their spouse. I think about this as we always, we'll talk about this where if someone says, well, I feel like I'm their future spouse, like that's like, I feel like God spoke to me and said that I am supposed to marry this person. And how do you navigate that? And what I have always said is, well, then pray for that position. Like, don't pray that God's going to put you into that position, because then if that doesn't happen, then you get extremely disappointed and you deal with those frustrations. Because I want to say that it always will not happen that way, but I've watched it happen so many times where people are like, I thought God said this is who I was going to marry, and now that's not the person. And it's what I always said is you'll never regret praying for the position that person's going to have in that individual's life. So praying for the position of the spouse of that individual. And if someday you step into that, that's great. Like, that's awesome. You prayed into that position already. But if someone else steps into that, you want your prayers to be upon that person. You want your prayers to be heard for that individual. If you truly see them the way that God's seeing them.
Because we want godly marriages, not just our own.
Exactly. And then with this resource it's the exact same thing, where it's like you have now something that you are praying for the position of the husband in your life. And whoever steps into that position's already going to be prayed up. That position's already going to be covered. And you're going to watch as someone steps into it already with the covering and the knowledge, that knowing that you've been praying for that for a long time.
Yeah. And I think back to our first date, how we just spent hours talking about vision for our lives, like what we hope for ourselves as individuals, and then as a one-day couple when we get married. And a lot of that, especially on your part, was sharing the vision that you have been praying into yourself. And so when I think about writing a vision for your future marriage, man, like how much clearer will dating be when it's not just, well, I want to get married by this age and we're going to do this together. But like you said, the heartbeat of my marriage one day will be, we will serve together. It will be, we will make an impact for the kingdom. We will be united. We will be equipped for anything that life throws at us. Like that's going to be so easy and natural to communicate, where you don't feel like you have to go on a date and present yourself as the best catch there is, or say something that sounds interesting. But I can really present myself well, where I'm not only putting myself in a position to receive what I've been praying for, but I'm giving an honest representation of who I am, which is a courtesy to the person you're on a date with.
Yeah. It's almost like running. So I do not enjoy running. I have a strict rule that I will only run if it is
being
for
chased.
Sports. No, maybe
true.
if I'm being chased too, but for sports, I'm not someone that's like, I'm going to go run 2 miles today. And I know people get the runner's high. I've never gotten that high on running at all. But it's almost like running in this way where I can ask you this question, Christian, do you pray for me right now as your husband? If you would have just waited until the moment came, instead of exercising this, like the Bible talks about exercising a gift of prayer. And if I would have just waited for the day to happen, like if I signed up for a marathon and I just waited for the marathon to take place, it's not going to be good. But I love this because it's an opportunity for you to begin to start exercising, to begin to start praying for your spouse, to begin to start praying for your kids, to begin to start praying over the promises that God has for you right now. I think too many times we wait until the moment actually happens, and we don't do the preparation ahead of time. And that's in everything. That's in navigating offenses with other people. Is like we wait until we're offended, and then we try to start walking it back, and it gets really hard rather than to continue to pray and believe for things over people, or pray and keep yourself pure, keep your heart pure, your motives pure, all those things. And so I think this is just such a great opportunity just to begin to start exercising that, and seeing as right now as you're waiting, like begin to start exercising those things. Begin to start walking in that, because it will only prepare you more. It's not like you're going to get married and then it's going to stop. It probably is only going to heighten, and prayer is going to become an incorporated part of your marriage. And I love this statistic, but I think it says that couples who pray together, the divorce rate is 1 in 1,500.
I think it's actually, like 0.0 something percent.
Yes. And it's just by couples who pray together.
Not going to church.
Not just believers, actually praying. Because it's in the Christian world, I think it's still around 50% divorce rate. But then if you just take it from couples who pray together, it's 1 in 1,500.
Isn't that incredible?
Just that simple act.
Yeah.
And so start exercising that right now. And I know it's going to build on the foundation for your future.
And that's not even just because we prayed and we received like this power to navigate stuff, which is part of it, but it's also like we are unifying around this hope, this commitment. We are tethering ourselves to something bigger than just our relationship. We're grounding it and cementing it. Yeah,
you're going to the creator of the universe. So it's not just I'm only praying about my marriage. It's like I'm going to the creator of the universe who I can come to for every single thing. And I'm building this, I'm exercising this muscle that I'm developing a stronger relationship with him. Again, at the end of the day, that's what it's about. God directs our steps into this, and I want to be more connected with God.
Yeah. And I love that you touched on it. It's like this preemptive preparation. And I think it's even preemptive protection for your marriage when you're praying for that while you are still single. One, because it equips you into the person you are to be as you navigate those trials. But it also brings like this heavenly, like I love that God is described in the Old Testament as the God of heaven armies. Like that picture that explanation gives me this picture of like God and just his supreme power and like all of heaven warring on behalf of his glory being revealed and being shown through, righteous people, righteous relationships, righteous intentions. And I loved whenever, I think it was after we got married, we realized this. Yeah, because you looked at your husband's Bible and we were talking about one of the harder seasons in your singleness. And we were talking about the dates and I was like, wait a minute, like, was this month? You're like, yeah. And we looked back through your husband's Bible, and that month was when God led me to really intercede on your behalf for protection and for strength. And I just think that that's one of the mysteries of prayer, not just in praying for your marriage, but in your friendships, in your life, and in the world. Is, we will just get whispers of things. We might not know, why am I praying for this or why am I interceding? But it is so powerful. And I see like, wow, Lord, you led me to just be like a small intercessory equipping for him in that season. And there's so much that probably will, guide you in your prayer journey. It'll equip you in ways for yourself, for others, and for his purposes to be revealed. So I'm a firm believer in the power of prayer. And I think sometimes it's, that's for healing people or for seeing this or for speaking that or for talents. It's also for your relationships.
Well, it's just connection. I mean, that's what prayer is. It's connection with God. You're getting connected with the creator of the universe. And I think even the more that you understand about prayer, the more you don't try to go get something from prayer. You're just trying to get the time with God. I look at it, and I went away recently into fast, and I think the most freeing thing that I did going to that fast is, of course, there was questions that I was like, God, I would love answers around this. I would love clarity around this. But the most freeing thing I did when I went into that fast was, it's going to be okay if God does not speak directly on those areas. All that I'm wanting to do is just go and connect with God. And as I went and connected with God, it felt like it just cleared up my mind on these certain things, that it made me have better understanding, maybe give more vision, more opportunities of like, what do I want to do right now? What is it that I need to do? What am I overly aware of how grateful I am for these things? And that's what prayer will do. And I know that just sounds like oh man, that's the simple answer. But guys, it should be the only answer. Like, it is connecting you with the creator of the universe, which will continue to allow you to cast those cares upon him and go forth into the calling that God has for you right now. And having a resource, of course, like this is just giving you that very practical steps that you need to take. And I think that's good. It's not supposed to replace that, but giving you the practical things that you need.
Yeah, this does not have all the answers of relationships, but it does point you to the answer for everything, which is faith, which is God, which is his provision and his power. And one term that kept being highlighted to me in my season of praying during singleness was splendor and majesty. And I didn't know what that was. I was like, oh, that sounds like a cool like coffee shop name. Maybe I'm going to have a coffee shop name that one day. But the more I've just seen that revealed through our lives, through prayer, through our relationship, it's like, wow, the splendor of the Lord and the majesty that comes from, as he reveals things, as we draw near to him. Like you're saying, the more you get closer to him, the more it's like, oh, I really want this answer and I want this direction and I want this thing I'm praying for, but I also am just aware I'm praying to you, that you have delighted in me enough to even hear my prayers, that wants me to be the righteous person, as James says, that wants me to be the righteous person that receives the prayers, not just because I receive them, but because I have this line of communication for you.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so if I am a single woman, like, what do you want me to do as I get these books? Obviously, there's 2 books. Do I read through the first one, or do I just start going through the journal?
Yeah, I would love if you at least read through the first book. So no. I know they're really similar. I even messed up the titles. Future Husband, Present Prayers is split into 3 sections. It's the what, how, and the why. I would love for you to get through section 1. And then as you do section 2, begin using your Dear Future Husband prayer journal, because I think it's important to capture the why, to do some of, at least what I went through was like that healing or that preparation, like just setting the stage for praying for your future husband. And then section 2 talks about some questions you might have, like, do I do this anonymously, or do I write a name that I think it might be the guy I'm dating, or maybe the Lord told me a name? There's questions like that we answer in there. So I think that's really helpful. And then, just start going through them together. You might be like, I have to buy 2 books, but yes, they each have a really specific purpose and function. And so I really hope that they benefit you and that you get excited about them. And there's just joy reclaimed in this season of singleness. It's such a beautiful gift of a time. It's transformative. For me, I took mine and I would go to weddings where I didn't have a +1. I was single and my friends were getting married. I'm like, you know what? I got my little husband's Bible. I'm good. This is my tangible reminder that I'm not looking for love somewhere, that I'm not behind, but that there is something that I'm praying into, and that's where my hope sits.
Yeah. And can I ask you too, because obviously you
can ask me anything.
So much time. I know you spent so much time going through these books, like boiling it down. What is your ultimate hope through this? As if I'm someone who I pick up both these books, what are you ultimately hoping that this individual gets to walk away with?
I think the answer expected would be that someone gets to meet their spouse, but it's not even that. My hope would be that we do not diminish the beauty of marriage into something that we can control. Because to me, that was the most helpful and calming thing, is when I realized I don't have to settle. I don't have to compare. I don't have to sit in isolation. This for me was a way to like flush those out. So many people today, especially with delayed timelines of people getting together and amidst hopes and different values in dating, it's so easy to want to settle or compare or just feel hopeless in this relationship or this potential for a relationship. My hope is, yes, if you find an incredible husband, that's amazing. But more than that, I want you to take this desire and feel like, one, know that the Lord hears your prayers, and to draw near to him in a way that is transformative, even if nothing happens. This desire does not take you away from God. It does not take you less of who you are, but on the opposite side, it develops something richer in you. It takes you more into the person that the Lord has equipped you to be. There were things in me of like passions and hobbies and qualities of my character that in high school I started to diminish because I thought, guys don't really like that, or I'm not seeing guys around me that value the same things I value. And so I started to morph who I was because of this desire. And what I saw is, as I brought that to the Lord, the opposite happened. If I went back into who he had called me to be, I felt confident to pursue, man, I love literature. That is not cool and trending. There's a lot of vines and people are funny. I'm not necessarily funny, but I have this deep love for writing. And so like even this being a resource is something that I was starting to diminish because I thought, well, I just want someone to love me. I just want to be seen. I just want to be the girl that gets asked out. So to answer your question, my hope would be that women step more into their identity, into their femininity, into their attributes that the Lord has placed within them. And then from that, yes, they become more of the wife that they're going to be one day. But they don't change any of that to fit a narrative or a timeline.
Yeah.
And it means so much to me as the first recipient of this type book that you would believe in it. So thank you for sharing.
Of course. Thank you for having me on as well.
If you're watching this and this episode spoke to you, if you think maybe I've prayed for my future husband a little bit, but I really want to get into it, I want to deepen my relationship with Christ, I want to prepare for that marriage, I'd encourage you to pre-order the books today. And not only will you get these the first right when they're available, but you'll also get the first few chapters already downloaded today. So if you want to start that heart work, so as soon as your pre-journal arrives, you can begin going, then the best option is to pre-order today. Those links are below, and we will see you next time on the Dear Future Husband podcast.